All right, welcome to the party, pals. Thank you all for tuning in and joining us today. Today the plan and agenda is to talk about the NIST 850, and we're going to really dig into it. The title for it is Building a Cybersecurity and Privacy Learning Program. I'll go ahead and drop the link to the NIST page real quick. It is going to be a couple minutes, so I still have to get my slide deck inputted and so forth. But we could kind of just talk and socialize and so forth a little bit. It won't be too long at all. I just have to export and get my slide deck imported. I hope you guys are excited for it. There's some really good information with it. Like Dwight mentions in chat right here. So wait a minute, didn't we already read this already? I mean, glad to see y'all though. Yes, we did go through on like one of our open discussion meetings and talked about the 850 a little bit, but we didn't really dig through it. We kind of premised it with the fact that we should do a deeper dive on it. There's a lot of really good information with the 850, and I wanted to go much more in depth with it. So this would be more of a deep dive. I have a whole slide deck for it and everything. So I think it's an amazing document that NIST has put out, and there's so many different ways that we could leverage it. And it's a recent publication, so the revision 1 just officially came out September of 24. So let me go ahead and transition this over, and then I'll get some music going, and then go ahead and drop in. What are you guys working on this week? How's your guys' Monday going? I'm going to go ahead and get this slide deck inputted here. So it's going to just be a couple minutes, and then I'll actually get the party started with it. See how this works out. Let me know if that music is a little too loud or otherwise, and I can always turn it down a little bit more. I think that should work right there. All right, and you could see that what I have up right now is the main NIST page itself. Welcome, Util. So again, for other people who are joining in now, I still have to get my slide deck inputted here, but definitely ask your questions and so forth, and take a look at that NIST page. I think I dropped it. Let me go ahead. Oh yeah, I dropped the document for NIST as well. Welcome to the party, pal, CyberCycle. And I see AB Showtime. We also have Marcus. We got C. Allen, and a couple other people pop in. Oh, we got PBO. Check out PBO's channel as well. So PBO, not only is he going through and building an 853 course for Simply Cyber Academy, but he also goes live every single Tuesday night. I believe it's 9 p.m. Central or 9 p.m. Eastern. I don't remember offhand. He'll correct me in the chat. I see Space Tacos popped in too. So give me just a moment here, and I'm going to go ahead and get this slide deck moved in. Let's see. Yeah, I was going probably a little bit too in detail with this slide deck, to be honest with you. Let's see. How's everybody's week going so far? Oh yeah, and Space Tacos does mention 9 p.m. Eastern. Yeah, I typically miss out on it. It's a little late. PBO streams are awesome, but we got to petition him to start a little bit earlier. Yeah, PBO late night. All right, let's see. Yeah, let me double check chat here. Oh, and then we got AB saying good afternoon to everybody. Yeah, and I see Dwight popped in. Yeah, we got a bunch of people piling in. Awesome. Yeah, I'm just trying to get this slide deck moved over. All right, I think that should work. The MLK slide deck? Honestly, I am so bad with holidays and so forth that I didn't even realize it was Martin Luther King Day. So, yeah, that's pretty bad. If it wasn't for community, I wouldn't even know the holidays and so forth. So, all right. I don't understand why it does that. I'm almost ready here. Let's see. All right, cool. Why is it doing that? That is weird. Yeah, this is acting a little funny here. Let's see. Let's just run it. I mean, what could possibly go wrong? Um, yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and do it this other way. I don't think this is going to work very well. That's probably not going to look as nice, but it's all good. Yeah, famous last words. Let's see. Yeah, Space Tacos is saying I didn't know about MLK Day. I don't really pay attention. I don't have holidays or anything like that marked on my calendar. We don't even really celebrate Christmas or New Year's or anything like that even. So, yeah, it's really just our anniversary and birthdays that we do anything about. So, yeah, I hadn't even made that connection. Now, Space Tacos is now knighting Dwight with Prince of Privacy. Welcome to the party, pal, Wim Types, by the way. So here in just a moment, I'm going to get my slide deck in here and we'll get this moving. But yeah, so I love NIST. I think most of us do. If you don't like NIST, you know, that's okay too. But NIST is pretty good. Oh, and also, Dwight, just for you, I got my daily monster. All right, let's get the ball rolling here. Yeah, and Albright, thanks for hopping in as well. So yeah, today we're going to be covering and breaking down the 850 into a little bit more depth. That is the direct link for the NIST document, and it is all about building a cybersecurity and privacy learning program. And my slide deck's loading in right now as we speak. So this document really interests me, actually. There's just so much great information in it. Honestly, I did not submit a message over in the Simply Cyber section, but you're welcome to drop a link over there, AB. So AB was talking about the Simply Cyber GRC section. Yeah, Space Tacos. So like, I could go into a little bit more depth with it, but like my upbringing, we didn't really do much with holidays and so forth. So it's just something that I don't know. It's nothing special. Every day is just the same, basically. Here to make sure y'all don't do too much work. Yeah. And, so I did not go through the whole introduction, but if you guys have any questions, drop them in chat. Let me know if you do want to come up on stage. I can open the stage if you guys would like to come up and contribute to it. I'm just going to go through this slide deck here, and then we can talk about it a little bit more. I'm going to cover a lot of the different purposes of the 850 and how that also works very closely with other frameworks that are out there, and just how it's a value and why I find it so interesting. And Marcus Kyler, if you are the mayor of MFA, then you also need to like start petitioning for something I wanted before was to do an MFA Monday. So every single Monday, you know, we would go through and be like, oh, don't forget to, make one more of your accounts, enabled for MFA, or double check one of your logins to, see if you can enable MFA. I think something like that would be pretty fun, as an MFA Monday. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get started here. Like I said, questions, topics, anything else you guys want to add, talk about your day and so forth. We're also here to socialize. Definitely drop that in chat. If you'd like to come up, just let me know. I'm going to keep an eye on chat the best I can. I wonder how this would look. Do you guys prefer? Let me know if you guys prefer the chat on the screen like this. I'm going to wait a moment. Do you guys think having the chat up on the screen itself like this would work? And then I could even move this around a little bit. Oh, that made me large. Yeah, I can set up a bot to auto do that. I just have yet to do it because I'm not a fan of multiple bots. So I like keeping it limited and so forth. Let me know if you guys prefer the chat up on the screen or not. I'm gonna go ahead and take it down for now. I can't. That's one of the downsides is I cannot edit the width of it. So I'm just going to go ahead and do it this way. Let's go ahead and move this around. I'll just go back to the original and we'll go ahead and get going. Albright, yes. So AI images and so forth is a huge benefit. And then this slide deck I'll also post in the Discord server as well. All right, so the NIST 850, I can't even, okay, yeah, the music is still playing. All right, so the NIST 850, like I said, September of 2024 is when revision 1 came out. One of the really important keywords, terminology to remember is CPLP. And it states right here on the screen, that stands for the Cybersecurity and Privacy Learning Program. Now, that not only is that like the name of the document itself, but CPLP is a newer term that I've seen pop up now. It's not just because of NIST, but hopefully more companies start developing these programs that are now called CPLP, Cybersecurity and Privacy Learning Programs. And we're going to learn a little bit more about it as well. The largest version of the content? I could make this big. We could do it this way too. Let's go ahead and run this way. So, all right. And there's so much information in here. So the purpose of NIST 850, it provides guidance. Like all of the different NIST documentation, it's primarily directed towards like federal agencies and so forth. However, it's used by the general public as well, and NIST understands that. That's the same thing with like the cybersecurity framework, the CSF, but then you also have like the 850, you have the privacy framework, and all of these different things that NIST puts out. And they do also cater to organizations of all size, so address needs. Not only is this good for starting from scratch, but then also it's for all sizes. So whether you're a small business, medium business, large business, it works across the board, and it's all voluntary. So you pick and choose what you want and what you don't want, and what works best for your situation and objectives. That's one of the best portions of it. It does talk a little bit in the document itself regards to like standards and regulations, because you do have some of that in some of the different industries as well. So one of the biggest things I love about NIST is the flexibility, like it mentions here, for customization, tailoring it and so forth. Yeah, PBO is already on his thing for 850. Yeah, PBO, we know. So some of the different key features is it combines the privacy with cybersecurity, and we'll cover it a little bit later as well. But one of the interesting things I like about it is that it's kind of like a guide to follow, and it seems to be designed to work with like the CSF and the privacy framework. It's like a cross between the two, and it's a guide to kind of implement that. And one part of the process would be like, oh, if you have the CSF or the 850, and you want to also bolt on privacy as well, then you can also use this as a guide to not only map those all together, which is something I'm actually looking at, is to try to take this guide and map it to the controls in the NIST frameworks. But also it just provides the guidance. So the life cycle model, I put the image right here. This is on the document as well. If you go down to page 16, it starts talking about the life cycle approach. And I have a whole breakdown of that as well. And then also current guidance. So leverages terminology from other NIST frameworks and documents. Not only does it leverage the terminology, but also it seems to map to these other frameworks like the CSF and so forth. Yeah, and definitely let me know what you guys think. So like Space Tacos mentions hitting the like button. If you guys find this valuable, definitely subscribe, hit the like button, or let me know, what's going on. So importance of NIST 850 revision 1, enhanced security. This all comes down to developing your cybersecurity and privacy training program. So this is security awareness and so forth, which has such an impact. I think this is one of the areas that kind of, it is part of your company culture, but then it affects so much of it. I think pretty much all of us here already realize that the humans, the people on the front line, is the biggest risk. So phishing is absolutely massive. A lot of attacks come through different forms of phishing, whether that be voice, deep fakes now, or email. And then that leads to a compromise. That's where security awareness training comes in, and that also coincides, like, I have customer service background. I don't recall any training whatsoever in regards to privacy whatsoever, and this addresses a lot of that as well. And so it mentions here, fosters a culture of security and privacy awareness. That's a very interesting topic. That's one of the biggest thing that I love about this, is that it's all about developing the culture within the organization. So AB asked this question here. So why is it called learning program? To me, the program also includes implementation. So it seems to be more than just a learning program. So what this is in regards to is, this is a guide for implementing a learning program for you to conduct like security and privacy awareness training and education. And this also can coincide with compliance as well, because this, like I said, can also map to the other frameworks for, privacy related things as well, and your security awareness training, which is typically required, X amount of time. Yeah, and also Space Tacos mentions that it could be a great entry point for former teachers wanting to get into GRC cybersecurity. Yeah, this is straight up GRC. If you're doing security awareness training, developing these programs, actually teaching it, I could see this as, I completely agree with Space Tacos. This would be a great approach in, because it has so much overlap. And this is just a guide to develop that program. Now, understanding CPLP. So like we mentioned, Cybersecurity Privacy Learning Program is what CPLP stands for. You'll see that throughout this. It encompasses the awareness, the training, and education activities for the program itself. It also, we kind of cover a little bit on some of the different learning types later on as well, but the necessary skills. So we'll see, like with the NIST, like we talked about the NIST framework, and then also some of the other different things. Space Tacos also has an awesome presentation coming up next month on different learning styles as well, which kind of coincides with this a little bit as far as like knowledge building. So, but it is focused on, finding what you need and actually implementing it to make sure that your employees are properly equipped with what they need to know for the security and privacy aspect. And there's so many different ways you could go about it, and it seems like a lot of companies fail at this. That's one thing I also find interesting about the 850 is it goes into great detail and gives tons of different examples and different ways of doing the same thing. So that way you could, there's going to be trial and error. You're not going to go from 0 to 60 and be good to go. This is on that life cycle approach, which I believe is going to be the next slide as well. It'll actually explain it in a little bit different detail. And it also emphasizes the ongoing education, customizing, and so forth. Oh. All right. Yeah, and like Marcus also mentions, developing programs and culture. Yeah, I think that's the most fascinating part about this, is I think one area that a lot of companies lack, from my understanding, is the company culture. That's super difficult to get. It takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, and it requires a lot of buy-in. So, and I think that's what we really need moving forward in the industry as well. I'm just double checking chat real quick. If you guys have any other questions or anything like that, definitely drop that in chat. I'm going to try to keep an eye on it. So the life cycle approach to CPLPs. This was in relation to that diagram that I briefly showed. So this is from step 1 to step 4, and it's designed to be in, recurring. So you rinse and repeat. So you start off with your plan and strategy. Like I said, these slides will be available in the Discord server. You just want to define, like, what is your purpose? What are your objectives? Why do you want to do this? And that's typically our starting point anyways. Like, where are we going with this? Why are we even looking at it? And then also the scope. You could go through and build a CPLP just for, like, if you just want a security and privacy program just for your SOC center, you could do that. Or just for your call center, you could do that as well. So I think that's one of the big starting points that's outlined in this document as well. Then it moves into the analysis and design, where you're actually designing the materials, you're doing some research on it. You want to find out, like, okay, these are the programs and objectives that we need. We're running off of the NIST CSF. So what controls in there do we need to mark off to begin with? It would probably be a pretty good starting point. And then depending on your industry and objectives, then you could add additional things like, oh, maybe our call center employees need to, have a module on, PII or, other different aspects as well. There's also like the privacy policy and all kinds of different things like that too that employees typically aren't reading. So you could even provide recaps of that. And there's all kinds of different stuff you could do. But you have the analysis and design. Then we move into the development and implementation, where you're actually delivering the material and doing more. And then assessment and improvement, which this is recurring. This is rinse and repeat. So then you move into the assessment and improvement. I think it's the next slide here, or here in a moment, it'll provide some different examples of that assessment and improvement, which I think is really interesting. That's one of the things I was really taking out of this document as well, is how to identify and collect the statistics, the metrics. What should you be looking for in order to improve the program itself? Let's see. Space Tacos was wondering if she could teach with the camera off. Yeah, so I don't see why not. Yeah, and I think Marcus is saying super challenging for the company culture. Yeah, I've been absolutely fascinated around company culture. I've been reading about it, researching it, and so forth. It's a very interesting topic, and it goes into a huge rabbit hole. So I find it very interesting, and I really do think that that's one of the big things that should change. Like, that makes a massive impact. Yeah, and if you guys want to come up on stage, just a reminder, I can drop the link for that if anybody would like to. You do not have to turn on your video. You can just turn on your mic and contribute with it if you'd like. So now we covered this section a little bit on natural life cycle approach. Employee-focused culture. So we were talking a little bit about the culture portion. So it does focus on the individual responsibility. So one of the things I find interesting is we talked a little bit about like the NIST framework, where it's role-based training, and it outlines like the different knowledge points, the different job duties, and so forth. And you could take the NIST framework for a particular role, which is still in development. They have version 1 out, but I do think that the NIST framework is going to become more popular, and I kind of hope it does. I think it's a really good approach to do role-based training. I find it to be, just thinking about it, I think it's way more effective, and it doesn't hopefully have as much filler in it. Having more generalized training just seems to not, be as entertaining or otherwise. Empowerment, so also making sure that you, like that security practices aspect. Hopefully it's the next slide. I should have moved the other slide up more. But you'll see different changes as well in the company culture aspect as you go through this and actually start building out this program more, is the interesting part. That's where the assessment area comes in, and you look at the metrics, you collect surveys, how many people completed it, how long did it take them, what are their ratings, and then you could look at company stuff as well on like, okay, how many did the percentage of incoming tickets for privacy or security related concerns go up, or did it go down, or is there less false positives? That there's a lot of different stuff you could look at. It also encourages open communication. That's where the company culture part comes in, and engagement. So I think there's a lot of different ways that you can make the training more engaging. Some people talk about like gamification, but there's different ways to do it as well. One notable one is there was actually somebody recently that posted online who's in charge of like a SOC center or security department, and they were talking about how they're actually going to be teaching their blue teamers the red teaming side of it, so that way they understand both sides. I'm kind of interested to follow that and see how that works out and so forth. But there's a lot of different aspects here. Space Taco says that would be better than the boring videos or the corny reenactment skits. And like CyberCycle mentions, gamification works. I think it depends on how it's implemented. So, and everybody's a little bit different too. Like personally, I hate gamification. I've not found any type of gamification that it seems that like it really works for me. So you do have like gamification where you have like a leaderboard or you get a badge or something like that. But when you're like playing a game, for an example, it's a lot different. And that personally doesn't work for me on an educational level. And that's another challenge when you're going through and doing security awareness and privacy training is everybody's a little bit different too. So especially when you're doing it in groups for, larger impact, training at scale, I'd be interested to hear what Space Tacos has to say about that, because Space Tacos does have an educational background, and I'm sure that there's more information out there on how you can kind of adjust things to a larger audience. Double checking chat. CyberCycle mentions folks tend to be more engaged that way, and it invisibly invites a sense of ownership when back at the desk. Yeah, and yeah, everybody's different. I think hands-on is a really, really important aspect of it, personally. Measurement and evaluation. So clear metrics. This is like another part that's interesting to me is the metrics portion. So defining your indicators of success, so like KPIs and so forth that we talk about. This goes back to your planning. Like, what is the purpose? Like, do you want to get more security alerts? Do you want to develop that company culture? Then you need to figure out what metrics you can track, what information you can gather in order to actually, figure out whether it's effective or not. Regular assessments, like we talked about a moment ago, it's a rinse and repeat cycle. So you're constantly going through, improving the content itself, changing the style a little bit, getting surveys, information back, and just improving it as you go along. It is recommended in the document that you have a regular assessment period. So whether that be 6 months or 12 months, it depends on how often or how many people you're doing the training with. But definitely want to have that written down in some type of policies. And all of this would go into some type of policy of like, this is our cybersecurity and privacy program, training program. Let me see here. So AB Showtime mentions, I'd imagine contractors or external experts would not be typically responsible to carry out a CPLP in an organization. It depends. There's a lot of variables with that. So it really kind of depends. I think a large majority of companies already have some form of security awareness training in order to mark off the box for whatever framework that they're trying to be in compliance with, or maybe it's a requirement of business contracts or otherwise. But as far as like contractors or external experts, I'm not sure. Maybe you could explain that question a little bit differently. Maybe that would go more closely in relation to business contracts or so. Yeah. So the CLP, yeah. So the programs themselves, so the CPLPs, I would say would typically be internal for your internal security and privacy teams. But I guess it does kind of depend, because I've also seen some companies where Like one of the companies I worked at, they had a third party who was actually in charge of like maintenance. So instead of having an internal maintenance department, they just had a third party that was on site 24 hours a day for maintenance concerns. And so I could see them being required, based on the contract or otherwise, to also attend this training as well. I think that really just depends on the organization itself and how it's all structured and so forth. It certainly could also include external partners. So getting started with the 850. So I dropped the link for it. I'll drop the link for it again for the main document page itself. Definitely take a look at that. It's not too bad. So the entire document comes out to about 87 pages. Out of that 87 pages, I would probably say about 60 pages or so actually has the gist of it, and probably about 30 of those pages is the meat of the document itself. So definitely take a look at the main document, but like I was also stating a moment ago, is assess current posture, define your CPLP goals. That's where you're in the planning stages, develop your plan and strategy, and then implement and evaluate. That's really the gist of actually doing this. And you have the 850 as a guide, community and so forth as well. And yeah, I think that this is definitely something that a lot of people should be looking at if you don't already have something. All right, now moving forward a little bit more. So assessing current posture. So in order to figure out like where you're at right now, you have to conduct surveys, review materials, like what frameworks are you working with, and what type of content do you want to do? What do you think would work? What are you doing now already? Also, one of the interesting things that I find is analyze incidents. So look at your previous security incidences, different events that have occurred, and try to figure out and tailor to that. And I've talked to other people who have conducted security awareness training, and they'll take like their phishing emails, like the real phishing emails that have occurred on their company, and they'll display those and show those off during security awareness training. But that also assists you in trying to focus your attention for the time that you have for that training as well. Benchmarks. So compare practices with industry standard peers as well. I'm not too familiar with that aspect. I'm sure that there's some different reports that are out there and so forth. Like I think the Verizon report that comes out every year does outline some of that information in regards to like security awareness training. Hopefully there becomes more, but also if you're part of, I believe it's what called an ISAC, where you are part of like an organization that shares information, then you may have those options as well. Defining CPLP goals. So this is where the SMART comes in. So let me actually grab this link real quick. Let's see. So we've talked about SMART goals a few different times, and I love the fact that it's just so universal. It's really good information. So there's the SMART goals that's on B-Dubs' blog website. Definitely take a look at that. She's putting out articles every single Monday. Today she actually put out an article all about PCI and how it's for the bare minimum, basically. It's like the minimum standards and best practices, but just PCI is just not enough, is pretty much the outline of it. Definitely give that a look. But yeah, I'd highly recommend to take a look at the SMART goals and figuring that part out, especially not only with planning out your CPLP, but everything. Very versatile. Developing, so outline the activities, allocate the resources, create the timeline, and design the content. There's a couple of these that I'm just going to fly through real quick. Here we go. So evaluating CPLP effectiveness. This is what I was kind of waiting to get to. So analyze metrics, conduct assessments, and solicit feedback. Especially with how closely this relates to company culture, I think the feedback part is really, really important. I've taken security awareness training in different forms of training with multiple different companies several different times, and not one time do I ever recall them ever asking for feedback. it was, oh, this is required every single year or every 6 months, so sit here for an hour and a half or 2 hours, or I've gone through training that was, 4 hours long, or maybe even a little bit longer than that. And not one time do I ever recall them asking for any feedback at all, which I think is just a loss for the company. Because how do you, I think that's a really important aspect, but then also so that way the employees understand that, like, hey, we're trying to improve this. We want this to work, not only to meet our requirements, but because we actually care. Because this also has an impact. It shouldn't be just to check it off the box. It should be, this is actually something that we want to take serious and buy into, because this can reduce our risk impact and, just a better company culture as well, with more open communications or understanding and so forth. And soliciting the feedback is so important with that, I feel. Conducting the assessments, we talked about that a few different times. I like the fact that it mentions in the document about knowledge retention. There's a couple different things that are in the 850. Like I said, it provides several different options or different ways to do things. Knowledge retention is an interesting topic that I'm sure we could talk about at more length, because it really depends on like what you're talking about and what type of role it's for. So how are you going to go through and do knowledge retention? One thing that I have heard before is doing like a phishing test, where you send out like a phishing email to your organization, like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks after security awareness training. So like you could actually send out like a phishing email, let's say a week before the training actually is conducted. And then you send out another phishing email 2 weeks after the training, or a month later. And you could kind of use that as far as the metrics go to see, what kind of impact it could be. Based on the type of training, like this could really, really vary. It depends on the role itself, but some type of knowledge retention or testing, I think, would be interesting. This could also be something where you could use some form of gamification with knowledge retention, where you can send out like just a quick quiz question, X amount of time after training, and be like, oh, hey, this has a leaderboard, whoever, the first 5 people, or the top 5 people who rank the highest, or something along those lines, gets a Starbucks gift card or whatever it is. Now, of course, there's so much that coincides with that, but there's a lot of interesting things you could do with it. Dwight mentions before. No, before is popular, but I think it's mediocre. Wish companies were using stuff like KC7 gamification style training. Yeah, I think it really depends and so forth. So I've looked at Before, and I've looked at KC7, and I'm sorry to say, but like, I tried out KC7 and I did not like the platform. It just doesn't work for me. Everybody's different, and that's one of the biggest challenges with it. So especially the gamification portion that's like on KC7. I've also seen a couple other styles that's similar to that. Just does not work for my learning style, at least. So that's a really big challenge. I think that may be one of the hardest parts, is trying to work with each person's learning style. And that's one thing I'm really interested to hear from Space Tacos about with her presentation about learning styles. And hopefully that gives a little bit additional insight into it, and maybe she'll include a section for like how, from an educational standpoint, you work with a larger group of people as well. And there's also another one. Let me actually double check real quick, because there's actually a really cool phishing test open source software too. So it's called Go Fish. So if you guys are conducting internal phishing tests and so forth, take a look at Go Fish. It is a open source program. It's relatively easy to set up, and it's free. So it seems to be a pretty good option. I've heard a couple different people who have utilized that in their environment, and it was successful. So, oh, come on, Space Tacos. Space Tacos is saying to stop adding slides to the presentation. I'm really excited to learn from you, Space Tacos. That's all. And like that's also a good shout out, Dwight. But yeah, I think that there's not a fix all for that issue. When is that one learning styles? Let me just double check real quick. So it's going to be the first talk. So that is going to be on February 6th. So I'm dropping the link for it right now, CyberCycle. And so that learning styles one that Space Tacos will be presenting is on February 6th during our main Thursday meeting. And I'm very excited, especially considering I'm adding slides as we go through this. Now, this slide right here is just an example of some of the different metrics that you could use to see like what type of impact you have. Let me see, can I move this around? Oh, that's the wrong way. Let me see. So what is the completion rate? What is the incident reduction? This is really, really useful, especially if you already have this data. So if you already have some of this information and you've been tracking it, then you can go through and you can do a comparison of, before and after. And then you could even do it, let's say you have to do this training once a year, then you can compare it to, the previous training and what the previous training metrics were. And there's so many different ways of doing it, but this is just an example of what you would be looking for, some of the big key things. There's probably another 15, 20 different types of metrics you could track, probably even more. It depends on the company, of course, but this gives you somewhat of an idea of how you can measure the impact. Some of the key things I note is the incident reduction and the reporting increase. I think the reporting increase is very important because if you have a increase, if you start noticing more employees reporting incidences, or even if it's a false positive, the fact that they're willing to go through that process by sending an email over to your security email or forwarding what they think to be a phishing email, the fact that they're doing that means that you're developing that security culture, that company culture that is what I find to be so valuable and useful in this day and age. So I have heard about issues where employees will over-report and you'll have too many false positives. Because they'll start sending newsletter things or otherwise that they could just unsubscribe from. But it's always better to be safe than sorry, especially with that being a huge threat vector. No promises, Space Tacos, no promises at all. Yeah, and if you guys have any questions or otherwise, let me know. I'm going to probably open the stage here in a few minutes. Let me go ahead and change the side that I'm on again. All right, so continuous improvement, that's what we were just talking about, is the metrics, doing the assessment, figuring out areas for improvement. And so that's where, reviewing the results, identifying the gaps, update the content, implement the changes. This is not the correct diagram. This is definitely not the right diagram, but we did look at that one diagram, which I think I could probably share real quick. Let me go ahead and so I'm going to go ahead and pull this up one more time here. So this is the diagram that we were looking at a little bit ago. So the plan and strategy, analyze and design, development and implementation, assessment and improvement, rinse and repeat cycle. So that's what we're still talking about here. And inside of the 850, it does break down every single step as well. So this is where I'm getting a lot of this information from, is it's just breaking down each step in that document itself, because there's so much information that coincides with it. Now, another really cool aspect of this, which I talked about a little bit at the beginning, is integrating it with cybersecurity and privacy. So where I find this to be the most useful and valuable is if you're already using a framework like the 850 or the NIST CSF, and you want to bolt on, or you already have added on the privacy framework, then you could use this as a guide in order to not only make sure that you go through and mark out the controls related to it for the training aspects, but I think this really helps on, the company culture side of it, and to implement a better security awareness program. Let me see. I can't click the links there, AB. I'll have to check that out though. Yeah, I'm popping that open. Yeah, so AB dropped something from CES Guide to Implementation. Oh yeah, this looks really nice. Yeah, the 5 types of implementation strategies. That's something that we could probably talk about and dig into for this meeting coming up. So this Thursday's meeting will just be open discussion. So anything you guys want to talk about, share about, ask questions, and so forth. This Thursday, that's what it's all about. The mid-month Thursday meeting is all just open discussion. I think that would be a pretty cool document to dig into. That page that AB shared. So this coincides really, really well, and this also gets implemented with your risk management. It's a holistic approach where you're addressing the areas together, and it kind of I think it makes the process way easier, because if you go through and you implement this, then you just have to double check that your controls are marked off, and you probably have something way stronger than just the controls. Yeah, CyberCycle says that he likes that. Yeah, I think that actually looks pretty neat. I'm definitely going to bring that up at the Thursday meeting. Addressing diverse learning needs. So this is what we were kind of talking about in chat earlier too. So like role-based training, adaptive learning, accessibility. Accessibility, I think, is a really important one too, that might not be as well addressed as it should be, because you have to make sure that your audience understands, and you do have to go through some level of tailoring, which I find to be very complicated and difficult, especially when you're doing it in larger groups. So I find it kind of interesting, and there's so many different ways of going about it, and I do believe that it's really a trial and error type of process, because every organization is different. So if you could go through and provide the exact same training to one security team and then the exact same training to a different security team and get completely different results based on the surveys or whatever it is. And that's, I think, largely it comes down to the individuals themselves. Leveraging NIST resources. I've talked about it a few times now. So the CSF and the privacy framework work very, very well with this guide for implementing the cybersecurity and privacy learning programs. Also the NIST framework. So when you're going through and doing the security awareness and building out your program, looking at the NIST framework and seeing how, I don't see it. I hope one day that it is more role-based training and there's more standardization in the industry, but unfortunately at this point in time there really isn't. So like the NIST framework I think is really neat, and I hope more organizations do adopt it. I just don't foresee that in the relative future. I hope it does though. I think it would be way more effective to base a lot of things off of that NIST framework, and I think that could be massively improved and expanded upon. Space Tacos mentions most instructors fail to include color in their attempt to be accessible. The color scheme of the materials make a huge difference. Oh yeah, and I mean that's a whole talk on its own, where we could talk about how color influences emotion and memory retention. That's a really good shout out, Space Tacos. Yeah, that's some pretty good information there. Which is also why you may look at a professor's slide deck, like PBO for, let's say, and their black and white slides just look so boring and dull, but there could be other reasons to it. But there's other colors that you could utilize. It's a whole science. I'm no expert on it, but I've heard of it. Building a security aware culture. This is, like I said, throughout this, I've talked about the culture aspect and how that's a huge fascination of mine, and why the 850 really draws me in. Leading by example, management demonstrates a commitment to security practices. by going through and building an official program and getting the feedback and constantly assessing these programs and so forth, I think that's a really, really good indicator that the company's not just trying to check a box. It's not like you're just sitting down employees to watch a 1-hour video every year just so you can mark off a box. You're actually implementing a program that you're actually keeping up with and putting thought into, and getting the work done with it. Regular communication, ongoing dialogue about cybersecurity and privacy. The company culture part is not a once and done kind of solution. With the company culture aspect, you want to make sure that it's recurring. That's when you're actually going out on the floor and talking to employees. You want to make sure that there is open dialogue. If somebody has questions or concerns or processes change, we've talked about it many times, and I've heard about it a lot, that one of the biggest issues is communication, a lack of proper communication within organizations. And you'll hear about like one department reaching out to legal, for an example. A lot of the privacy professionals are underneath the legal department. So I find that kind of interesting. And I think that still, there's a really, really heavy overlap with the GRC and the privacy aspect that may fall underneath the legal team. And this is still, Dwight could probably talk about it more than I can, but I think it's going to be a very interesting future as it becomes more and more common as far as the privacy aspect comes in, especially. Space Tacos mentions, my primary point is the background color versus the color of the text. Some people don't make good choices. Light blue background and bright red text, or pale yellow background with gray or white text. Yeah, I could understand that aspect as well. You got to make it legible and so forth. I'll keep those really bad examples in mind for my next slide deck. Yeah, I'm very excited to. Marcus also mentioned teach us Space Tacos. I'm very excited for that learning styles. Space Tacos is going to absolutely kill it in a good way. Recognize efforts. So I think that there's a lot of debate as far as like a rewards program. I've heard of some organizations where like you get a bonus of some sort based on like reporting security incidences. And there seems to always be some type of love-hate relationship with the reward system. You could also have an issue with that over-reporting or otherwise, but again, it really depends on your organization itself. I love the fact that they mention it. Embed security considerations into daily. I don't even remember what that section says. Let me just move that over into daily workflows. Yeah, so integrating into processes. And I think that's also where integrating into processes, that's where the role-based training comes in. So you're customizing and tailoring the training to that individual's job duties. There's also an issue where like, oh, what if this person just conducted this security and privacy training for their job role, but then they get moved into this other role. So there's a lot of other things to think about and things that make it complicated. Oh, Space Taco says, pro tip, it helps not to make the eyes of your audience bleed. Let's see here. Challenges in CPLP implementation. So I talked a little bit about this as well. If you guys have any questions or concerns or anything else, definitely drop that in chat. We could also talk about this in the Discord server, or I can open up the stage and so forth as well. But resource constraints, we're always fighting for budget in the first place. Also personnel. So not only budget, but then also getting the people to do it as well. Especially that assessment and improvement section could be a lot more work than you'd imagine. Engagement, maintaining the interest. So that I think is the main reason for doing this, is not only to reduce the risk and impact, but making it more engaging, trying to get these metrics and putting thought into it and having somebody dedicated to do that. So that way the employees don't just, scroll their phone while they're sitting through their video every year. Measuring effectiveness, quantifying the impact of awareness and training efforts, keeping current, updating content to adjust rapidly. So a lot of the different stuff that we've already mentioned here. I think I'm almost done here now. So best practices for CPLP success. You have to have that buy-in. That's a 100% given. If you don't have shareholder buy-in, it's just not going to happen. Tailored content. That's where that role-based training comes in. However, it's not actually talking about role-based training when it's saying tailored content. It's more so talking about like the organization itself, like it mentions there, but then also to like the employees themselves, because you can go through and do a CPLP program without having role-based training as well. That's probably a really important thing I should have mentioned earlier on, is that even though I've mentioned a lot about role-based training, there's like, I think 4 or 5 different methods that they share within the 850. And there's probably even more than that. So, but tailoring it to the organization itself and the employees and so forth. Engaging delivery, making it interactive, different learning methods, doing all that kind of research and so forth. Lack of leadership support. Yeah, AV. Best practices. I'm not sure. I'm not sure based on your message there, lack of leadership support. You definitely need that buy-in though, and continuous reinforcement, especially with the culture aspect. I mean, it's not a one and done. I kind of feel like I could have knocked this down to like 10 slides. Future trends in CPLP. So there's a lot of interesting things. Not only, I mean, the industry moves so fast, and I believe most of us realize that. But there's some really interesting things coming out. So like AI-powered learning. There's multiple different ways that I've already seen this starting to be implemented, not only for like quizzes and so forth, but there was actually a really cool program I saw that's actually designed for children, where it's 100% AI. So they actually have an AI teacher that they just sign in on the computer every day, and it goes over what they've already reviewed. And they're actually designing this AI platform for like, I think it's just elementary school for right now, like to teach basic language and math and reading and so forth. I think it's just for the basics. But we could even, in the future, we may even see that further expanded upon. There's still a long ways to go with that, but it's kind of interesting. This could also flow into organizations. Virtual reality simulations. I find this most useful for labor. I have a labor background, and the VR simulations, I think, are already at the point where it's useful to utilize. This has a much higher overhead cost. There's a lot of different other considerations to put into place, for virtual reality. But I can definitely see this being a very valuable point to implement as well. Like for an example, you could actually go through and use virtual reality for, let's say, underwater diving simulation. You could utilize it for different like high-risk situations, like for working with the power grid, or even welding, and all kinds of different things that you could use this for. It's just like with pilots for aircrafts and so forth. They typically go through simulation training as well. And there's a good reason for it, because you're not risking a, $300 million plane with live people on board for testing purposes. So I find that really fascinating, especially for the labor industry. Yeah, and like AB mentions, let's see. Oh, lack of leadership support challenges, I see. AB mentions a comment, future trends to just in time. Sounds so powerful, great slides. I've heard of just in time before. I particularly don't really care for the term just in time. So I think future trends just makes it more obvious for all audiences. That's kind of the reason why. especially when I'm going through and reviewing all of this and so forth, I'm trying to make sure that it's understandable to everybody. And I definitely want the input and feedback and so forth. I could do more research into that, but yeah. And also it mentions here for the gamification and micro-learning. So the micro-learning I see as definitely beneficial. I think that's interesting. And the gamification part that we had talked about. And I should actually double check that. Let me see. Yeah, I don't even see the just-in-time. I think it does mention the just-in-time. I'm pretty sure it is in the document itself somewhere. But I don't think they call it that. Please elaborate on why not. Why not the just-in-time portion? So like the main purpose for this is just as like a overview of the 850 and its purposes and like some of the highlights that I pull out. And so like the just-in-time, I think kind of goes a little bit deeper into it. So like I'm not going to do a complete breakdown on just-in-time. I think that's what you're talking about there, Marcus. So like it does mention here on the micro-learning section that we're just on, brief focused learning modules for just-in-time training. But I wasn't going to go through, what I was meaning is I wasn't going to go through and like make a slide deck just for it. And then if people do have questions and so forth, then we could elaborate. So like the term just in time, I don't know, it could have a negative nuance to it to an extent, because just in time. So like Jerry has talked about before, like when he was in the medical sector, he ran one of the medical security programs, and what he would do is he would, like, I think once a week or something, he would record like a short 60-second video saying, hey, you guys over in this department, you know, watch out for this because this was just on the news. He's talked about that before, and that would be falling under the just-in-time portion. But I think that the just-in-time aspect is overused. Like I've seen people use just-in-time as in like just an update type of system, which I don't think it should really classify as. I don't feel that the definition of just-in-time has been clearly identified in the industry, at least from my perspective. Yeah, so my definition for just-in-time would be like bleeding edge, like this is happening right now, this article just came out, or this is an ongoing threat that, you know, we need to be aware of now, kind of thing. Whereas most of the time when I've heard about it, talked about, or otherwise, is it's like, oh, here's the top 3 things about phishing emails, or just more basic stuff like that. So that's kind of like my outlook on that. Space Tacos mentions, I do like micro part of micro learning. I'd rather give short 5 to 10 minute training throughout the year instead of one full day event. That bores me out of my mind. Yeah, and I think that's another cool thing that was mentioned too, is like with reinforcement as well, have like recurring, because I personally don't think that like a once a year, like an annual security awareness training is enough. It takes so much resources to make just in time, is what Tihi mentions. Yeah, and that's another aspect too. Yeah, not only does it take a lot of resources, but like imagine tailoring that to different departments. Like, yeah, it could definitely be a a lot of resources. And then also he also further expands saying that a lot of stress and undue burden too. Yeah. Well, and that's one of the things that I found interesting. So like, if you're in a smaller organization, I could see it working out a little bit better maybe. But also if you were to implement like just in time, I mean, I don't see why you would do it unless you could actually prove that, hey, this is actually worth the time and effort that's going into it. Not to mention the employees' time. Like if you send out a video to 500 employees and you get 4 views on that video, then maybe it's not worth the time and effort. You still have to be able to track those metrics and make sure that you're not just wasting your time. So, yeah, and CyberCycle mentions, but that just in time in point 3 sounds as if it's alluding to being quick to respond to changes in security in alignment with trends. I'm not exactly sure what that first part. Dwight says I'll be on duty tomorrow if there's still questions though. Yeah, and also we have a privacy chat inside of our Discord server. So if you guys weren't already aware, inside of the Study GRC Discord server, we do have a privacy chat. That is a really good add-on. AB also just shared a role available. We have a section over there for, so it's a directory for laboratory programs. We have a channel for the job postings. Part of me thinks, Space Taco says, part of me thinks security awareness training should be treated like Patch Tuesday. Tuesdays, make it a regular thing so people are used to it, but also make it mandatory. Yeah, I think it's all on how it's done, and I think that's where you could get some level of gamification where you could have like a leaderboard and like maybe a reward system of some sort to incentivize employees to do so. So like, oh, here's the weekly 15-minute training, a refresher course or whatever it is, like 10 minutes long or something, and then have some type of leaderboard to where like you get so many points and then you could maybe spend those points on different rewards or something. I've heard a lot of different ideas for it, but also it can create some issues within the organization too. So I think it's interesting. CyberCycle mentions I'd also publish cyber shorts on company TVs and break rooms, roll those videos just to keep the subconscious tuned up. I actually like that idea. I think that's actually a pretty good mention. Subliminal messaging is basically what CyberCycle is talking about. You see, like, just look like mentioning back to like my labor background. So you'd get a lot of like danger signs and warning signs and things like that and so forth. And I have a family member that works in occupational safety, and just putting in a sign actually does have a measurable effect on employees' performance, but also the safety incidences themselves. Like just by putting up a, tread carefully, icy floor sign or watch for steps or whatever it is, there is a measurable difference just by having that. Even if employees don't read it, just having it there actually does seem to have an effect, which I find interesting. And so the overall conclusion is it's a great guide. It works well with the other NIST documents. It hopefully can lead to a better security posture and culture. So, yeah. And that is the end of my TED Talk. I am going to go ahead and take this down I'm going to go ahead and open up the stage as well if anybody else wants to join. I hope I didn't miss anybody throughout that. In the future, I'll make sure to utilize this this portion of like me in the corner and at full screen for the presentations. Well, and I think it also depends on like the departments as well. But like one of the interesting things that I have also seen in regards to like the subliminal messaging is, you know, not only signs. I think it's actually a pretty good idea to have like ad rolls, but also like at one of the companies I worked at, they had like a I can't even think of the word right now, but like a time board, a timesheet type of thing where you would, like when you go into work and when you leave work or when you're in the break room, they had these big gigantic TVs up on the wall. And it just listed all the different departments and whether those departments were scheduled for overtime and so forth. And one of the interesting things is that they had like a little a ticker box that scrolled across the screen as well that would, you know, give like company updates like, oh, don't forget about the company potluck on the 30th, and you know, wish so and so a happy birthday, and different things like that. And so I could find that kind of interesting. And I think that was CyberCycle who mentioned the TV portion. I kind of like that idea. But yeah, so that's pretty much the end of it. If you guys wanted to, we could probably dig through the document itself more. But I think that gives a really good overview of like a lot of the key highlights of the document itself and why I'm pretty fascinated about it. I think this is definitely the way that the industry should hopefully go, because also these types of programs are not cheap. They definitely have a lot of budget requirement and resources overall, but especially on the company culture side and the actual training side of it, I think is definitely a huge room of improvement overall. CyberCycle says video is the oil of media. Let's see. Yeah, and GRC Mafia. Yeah, and so also another really important shout out is not only does Space Tacos present on the 6th of February, but we also have a cynical overview of High Trust that's coming up after that, and that'd be on February 13th, which is with Marissa. You can check out that video. This week we have our open discussions meeting, and then the last Thursday of every single month we have our job readiness with group resume review. If you guys do have a resume that you want to get reviewed, we currently do not have any resumes prepped for review. So if we have no resumes for reviews, then we'll just go right into job readiness. Maybe looking at some of the different job descriptions that are out there. We could pick somebody out of the community to, you know, help them with a job hunt of some sort. And there's all kinds of different things we could do. Maybe we'll do some demo interviewing or things like that. But also on Wednesday, we also are going over the 812, and that is an introduction to information security, which is another NIST document that I had not read. I didn't even know about it until a few weeks ago, actually. And it's all about, it's just an introduction to information security. What is it? What does it mean? Why is it important? Like, just a very, very base level starting point. Let me go ahead and rip this down. And I got all day, so I'll double check my schedule in a moment. But if you guys have any questions or otherwise, let me know. I'll stick around for a moment. If there's nothing, then I'll go ahead and disappear. I do appreciate everybody showing up and asking your questions and so forth. I think there was great conversations that popped up, not only around like gamification, but the TV subliminal messaging, colors for slides and education. A lot of different information out there. And we could also continue this conversation in the Discord server and at the Thursday meeting too, of course. So, Brexy, I'm pretty sure you're in our Discord server. And so inside of the Study GRC Discord server, if you go to info and links, at the very bottom, you'll notice a section that says, how can we help you? I can go ahead and drop this inside of the general chat, but you select that little drop-down box and you select submit redacted resume. And that will open up a private chat with just me and the board members. And you just give us your redacted resume, take your email, your phone number, redact company names and information if you need to, just so that way you're not identified. We do not show unredacted resumes, even if you feel okay with it. It's just not something we want to put out on the internet forever. But that is how you do it. You just go to our info and links channel. I'm adding you in the general chat right now with a link to it. And it's the very last message. It just says, how can we help you? And that goes for everybody. So if you guys want to submit your resume, that's awesome. We'll go over whatever resumes we get, and then we'll go into maybe job hunting for somebody in the community, or just looking over some of the different job descriptions. We could talk about relatable experience. If Space Tacos joins us, then I'm going to, try to interrogate her for like educational background overlap, which I think is another interesting thing as well. A lot of people don't realize that pretty much any industry that you're coming from into GRC, you have some type of overlap. Like I think it's highly unlikely that you have zero transferable skills. I'm going to go ahead and take that down. Let me know if that answers your question, Brixie, by the way. Or, yeah, Brixie. I'm pretty sure that's how you'd pronounce it, right? Brixie. I'm going to run with it. Marvelous Michael's malware. What was that in regards to? Space Tacos. Marvelous Michael's malware? I've never heard of that. Cranky Kenny's keylogger? Are you coming up with some sketchy, like dark web stuff now, Space Tacos? Yeah, and Marcus and Brexy and whoever else, if you guys want to submit your resumes, you can submit it multiple times. We do it once a month. So the last Thursday of every single month, we do group resume review, where we just provide our insights and recommendations as a community. And I'll show them up on screen, and we'll just go through it as a community. And that's just to, an added benefit of community itself. So you're more than welcome to submit it more than once as well. And take it or leave it. It's just recommendations and so forth. I originally was going to name it resume roasting, but that was only for my resume. So I did have my resume roasted on live stream already. That was like one of our first times doing it. And I have not submitted mine since. Oh, look at that. We got Space Tacos popping in here. Welcome to the party, pal.
Well, hello there. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so you have to scroll back up to see the thing I was making up the names for.
Oh.
No, Marcus, Kyler, do not put me to work, please and thank you. No, I made a comment about the goofy side of my teacher brain. Yep. You said do something brought to you by do an ad roll, like with security awareness training, and I was like, ooh.
Oh, I see. Okay, you're starting to already develop ad rolls for cybersecurity awareness training. Is that right?
Yeah,
that's actually not a bad idea. I might actually do that. I'm going to put something in Discord and so forth. Like, I think that would be pretty funny to have a cybersecurity awareness training ad roll. Like, I could just start showing that like halfway through our meetings. I think that would be actually pretty interesting.
I think that would be hysterical.
Yeah, I'm going to work on that. I'm going to put that on my schedule for this weekend.
Yay. And then I did the names like that just because I'm a nerd and I like alliteration a lot because I was a vocabulary nerd when I was a munchkin. See, AB's got it.
Yeah.
Tricky Tina's Trojan horse. I like it.
Yeah, she's going full OWASP. Yeah, exactly. Tricky Tina's Trojan horse. Sneaky Saren spyware. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that honestly, I think that's a great idea. If there's anybody who wants to help contribute to that project, let me know. We could make it a community project where we just make like a playlist on YouTube with different cybersecurity training ad rolls. Like this week, just in, let's see, Tracy's Trojan horse. Don't get caught.
And I'm thinking, if anyone saw the Marvel TV show WandaVision, if you didn't, it's okay. But for every episode of WandaVision, they would, there were 9 episodes, and I think they did 7 of the episodes. They would do a silly commercial in the middle of it. And a lot of them were related to other things, but they were kind of overdone and really cheesy, and they were really kind of hamming it up. And so that's kind of what I thought of, like, just really overdone to kind of make people laugh and kind of catch their attention and kind of make them go, okay, that was a little weird. What was that all about? But then make them kind of smile and laugh.
Yeah, and honestly, I think that would be a pretty fun way to go about it, is to just do like a cheesy ad roll type of video. So I think that would be pretty engaging, to be honest with you. Yeah. For the low price of free, you could not click the link in the email. I could even get some flex tape and recreate that flex tape video and be like, you gotta patch it. We could do some pretty interesting things. Like, I have all kinds of things going through my head right now.
See?
Yeah.
Ooh, AB, I like that one.
Actually sounds pretty fun.
This crypto ransomware. Ooh, gotcha.
Yeah, and then also AV says the last one. So Cryptic Chris's crypto ransomware.
Yep.
Yeah.
I like that one.
Yay. Yeah, if any other questions or otherwise, definitely drop those in chat. We could also just have open discussion if you guys are working on anything in particular or have anything related to what we just went through with the 850. I know it's a lot of information. The document itself is only like 86, 87 pages in total. But it's so much information. What I love so much about it, though, is that company culture aspect and just bringing more awareness to it and how it works so closely with that CSF and privacy framework. Which also, another shout out too, is me and Dwight's privacy stream is airing tomorrow at 11 a.m. Central Time, which I could give a little bit of a hint is in relation to this to some extent. So.
This was a great presentation. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for hopping in, for not only hopping on the stage, but also for everybody in chat and tuning in and so forth. I think that it's a great document. And then I think this will be the last shout out is the 812 on Wednesday. So an introduction to information security. So we're going to do something similar for that document like we did today. But this one is going to be way smaller. This presentation I could have made, I think it came out to 24 slides. I could have made this in 10. I probably should have, but it's so much information. This introduction to information security is another really cool document. And also, what do you guys want to hear about as well? So like I said, especially moving into 2025, I almost said 2024. Yeah, you can tell how times move. We talked about how we want to do extra streams every single week. So just based on community feedback, and that's what last week was about. This week is about. I don't believe we have anything extra scheduled for next week. So if there's a document you guys want to go over or a particular topic that you want to dig into, definitely let us know. Drop it in Discord, reach out to me, drop it in chat and so forth. So it's all about community and learning together. So. Let's see.
I like the idea for Funko dolls.
What was that?
There's a comment that talks about making Funko dolls for the threat actor roles. I love that idea.
Oh, so then you could make Funko dolls for the threat actor roles. I don't even know what that means. I don't even know what that is.
You should look
Funko
them up.
dolls?
They're really cool.
I don't think I've heard that term.
Yay!
Are they like bobbleheads?
Sort of, but they don't bobble.
Oh.
They're bobbleless heads.
Bobblehead? That's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I just learned something new.
Yay!
And then also AB asks, hey, Chris, what app did you use to create graphics today? So if you look back at my AI, how I use AI video, I could grab the link to that here in just a moment. One of the big things I use is Gemini for a primary, but then also Gamma is what I use for the presentation aspect. Now, if you look at the pricing and everything else, it's less, you still have to look at your ROI on it. What is your return on investment for it and so forth? So I do pay for premium just because I'm trying to make these presentations not only for myself, but also for the community at large as well, like for our speakers and so forth, and just trying to add more value to the community. I think they do have like a really low free version as well. Definitely check it out. I think it's a great service. I would just check out the AI video that I did where I outline Gamma and the features and how I use it. They have made some updates recently, but if you wanted to dig more into it, we could always hop in Discord VC or something like that as well and dig into it as well. There's a lot of different features of it, and I think it's really neat. You could also generate just AI images as well if you wanted to. You don't have to do a presentation. They also have like a website feature and all kinds of different stuff. Especially from a business standpoint, I think it's definitely worth the money. Let me see. I'm pulling the link right now for Gamma. Yeah, so 140. So this includes the timestamp for that video, KB. So if you look in the description for that video, you'll see that I went through and did the chapters for the different sections and tools that I talked about. So that way you could easily go through and find what you're looking for. But that video is pretty new. I did that, 3 weeks ago on December 20th. So I'm just double checking chat again here. Yeah, and also like CyberStoic also mentions fun names that helps people remember. I think that's one of the best things around like the idea of like doing ad rolls for cybersecurity awareness is I think it would be pretty engaging and funny, making people remember. I think it is a good idea. Dwight mentions maybe some mock interview stuff. Are you talking about like with the ad roll thing that we're talking about, or for this Thursday? So this Thursday, it's pretty likely especially if we only have a couple resumes to go through, we should have no issues with going through and doing some mock interviewing. One of the other things that I would like to do on our job readiness meetings, which is the last Thursday of every month, is job hunting for people. So there's multiple people in the community who are looking for work, and us as a community can spend 10 or 15 minutes of our time to go through and try to find different roles that may suit them. I don't believe we've given that a try yet, but I kind of think it might be worth giving a try. Just doing it as a community. But also that mock interview portion is a good one too.
Oh yeah, mock interviews are real good.
Well, and so like I had also showcased on that AI video, and before that, utilizing the conversational feature with Gemini for interviewing, which is absolutely intense. However, we could do it on a live stream as well.
Yeah, because it's different talking to a person.
Correct. And honestly, I think it's easier to talk to a person.
Well,
The questions that that Gemini has given me, I'm like, no human being would ask it that way.
Yeah, I got nothing. I don't know.
Yeah. CyberStoic also mentioned I have ideas for a spoof on names for a kids show, not cyber related, but it could be. Yeah.
No, I'm intrigued.
Well, and I think we talked about it before too, because like we're seeing more and more education for cybersecurity and related for children or middle school, high school, and so forth, which I think is awesome. When I was in school, they didn't have any of that.
Mm-mm.
I mean, I think only 2 of my schools even had computer systems.
We had Oregon Trail on a Commodore 64.
Yeah, I went to all public schools and so forth. So like,
me too.
Yeah, I actually remember that like my teachers would have to go up to the front office in order to print out like the attendance and so forth. Like they didn't have printers or anything like that in the classrooms.
We had dot matrix printers.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Oh yeah.
CyberStoic says, Chris, can you use Canva Pro if you didn't already know? If you have nonprofit, yes. So we do have Canva Pro through the nonprofit and everything else as well. So if you're not familiar, Study GRC is a registered nonprofit. We are not 501c3, but we are registered as a nonprofit. We are pursuing the 501c3. But yes, we do take in part with that Canva Pro. We were able to meet those requirements. And that's what we use for our thumbnails and a lot of the graphics that we put out and so forth, which is a really, really awesome addition and value add. For shorter content, I also use Canva for like video editing and things like that too. I think that's a really good shout out. I think a lot of people don't realize that, especially for the nonprofit standpoint. AB also mentions when I first saw the handle Space Tacos, I really liked it. I didn't even know who the person behind it was.
Oh, thank you.
And also, let me drop this in chat too. So we have a command here for tacos, and so that should drop the link to not only Space Tacos website, but then also the GRC audit treasure trove. So entire archive, all kinds of different information. Definitely check out that Discord server. It's a really great resource because you could just go in there if you're looking for something, search for whatever term, and I'll be surprised if you don't find it. And if you don't find it, then just say something in the general chat there, and I'm sure at least a few people will drop it. Oh, and that's awesome. So Space Tacos also mentions that on their website, they have 5 or 6 examples of just-in-time training as well. I didn't even know that.
That's probably because you've never been to my website.
Gone to the website during a live stream before. Oh. I just didn't notice that part.
It's pretty, you got to click around a bit and you'll see it. But when you go to the front page and scroll all the way to the bottom, there's I think I did 5. But if you click on any one of them, it opens up a presentation. I use Loom. I use Canva to create it. I have a free account. And then I use Loom to record the videos. And it's for a company of someone that I knew. And it's just, hey, executive team, I wanted to let you know that there was this story in the news about this and that. And to be sure to let me know if you have any questions and blah, blah, this is what happened. And don't click on the business email compromise and blah, 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 blah. So it was just really, and then one for I think the finance team, one for HR, and one for maybe the tech squad. I can't remember. But yeah, I need to do some more because they're kind of old. They're all 2023 stories. So I need to do some more. So some of these names are great. I might use them in my next round.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's awesome. Yeah, and so I think I'm going to go ahead and bring this to an end here.
Yay, I gotta
do what?
I said, yay, I gotta go to sleep.
Oh gosh. Yeah, I hope to see you guys on Wednesday at 11 a.m. So at the same, at the exact same time that we started this one. at 11 a.m. Central Time on Wednesday for the 812. And then also Thursday, our primary meeting, which is 6 p.m. Central Time for our open discussion meeting. If you guys have any other additional questions, definitely drop those. I'm going to go ahead and drop the Discord invite again. The Discord server is like the go-to place, especially outside of live streaming. Drop your questions there. There's also the Simply Cyber Discord as well that I think a large majority of us are a part of. Just ask your questions. We're here to learn, grow together, and so forth. Don't hesitate to reach out, and I hope to see you guys in the Discord server. You guys have a great rest of your Monday, and I'll see you guys later.